Hello, everyone. Thanks so much for tuning in. You're watching the Positive Vibes podcast. I am Kellie Fitzgerald, your host. My guest today is, I get excited for all of my guests, but this one has really excited me. This is Rob Alex. He is a PhD in metaphysics. This is his book. Everyone should buy this book. It takes a friend of mine was reading through it the other night and she said, it takes all the woo-woo out of it. It's just straightforward. You can, this is the way it is. Here's the facts. We're making it simple. And it's just a wonderful thing that is so needed. So thank you for taking the time to be my guest on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. I love what you're doing. I love the message that you're spreading. We need more people like you on this planet and in this world and in this universe.
Well, thank you. Thank you for that. I feel the same way about what you're doing in your work. It's so needed. One of the things that I hear a lot is, why is this so hard to do? It isn't difficult. And you've just taken all of that difficulty and said, no, throw that away. Humans, we like to make things difficult. I think we do that to ourselves purposely. And this is just such a straightforward, well-written book.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that.
What is your background? Do you have a background in metaphysics? Or?
I did not. I was a pretty normal kid, I guess I could say. Wasn't a mean kid, but I was a little mischievous. I was always searching out things. I liked to do funny things, play jokes and practice, things like that. So I wasn't into religion. I wasn't into, my main goal in life was just to have fun. And sometimes as a kid, you do those things that are what you might think are funny that aren't necessarily funny. And as I grew, I started to open up and understand that, if you're going to make fun of somebody, just make fun of yourself.
Right.
I learned, very difficult lessons. And I probably hurt some people along the way, and I apologize to all of them that are out there that I might have made fun of or something like that. But as a kid, you didn't know that. When I was growing up in the 70s and 80s, that was just the way it was. It was just like a pass down. The older you were, you made fun of the younger kids, and you got made fun of by the older kids.
Right.
And now I see we needed to break that process. So yeah, it was just a pretty normal life for me. But about 14, 15 years ago, I had some experiences that I couldn't understand. And I wanted to know more. I just self-quest. I wasn't doing it to get rich. I wasn't doing it to become, a leader.
Right.
Or anything, but it fascinated me, and I wanted to know more and more. And then I got to the point where I wanted to share. I'm not doing things to make, yes, I'd love to make $1 million or $1 billion or whatever, but I'm not doing it for that reason.
Right.
It's more of a sharing my message to other people.
Let's talk a little bit about your experience. What happened to you? What did you go through? Because I know some of the things that I did when I was a child. There was an abandoned house. All of the kids flocked to it to go see if we could see the ghosts. But everyone has those kinds of things that happen, I think.
Mine was simple. It was just a vision. So I got when I was married before, and my wife at that time, we were diving into the metaphysical world and just branching out and seeing things. And I was trying to do some relationship work with couples.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought, are we really being present when we're intimate? So just to throw that out there. And so I thought, well, I'm going to focus on being in my mind and being present during that intimacy. And the only thing I got was it was an image of like I was laying on the forest floor looking up at the trees, huge, tall trees, amazing trees. And I just filed away. I didn't think anything about it. I was just like, okay, that's nice. I paid attention. I got this. I wrote it down in a journal. I was like, it wasn't until about a year later that it really hit me My then wife was out at a conference at a spiritual center in California, and she said, "Why don't you come out and we'll make a short, we'll have a little trip of it as my event's ending." And I had plans. We were going to go whale watching,
Mm.
and she was like, "No," she said, I want to take you to this place I found while we're out here." I said, "Okay, that's wonderful." Well, it was Redwood Forest.
Ah,
Walked into the Redwood Forest, and I looked up, and I mean,
yeah,
unbelievable reaction. My eyes just started watering, crying, whatever. It was just this spiritual experience because I looked up, and that was the image that I had gotten
right.
during that time. And that set me off on a like, okay, there is a connection here. It wasn't just something that was just random, that I was just like, okay, it did mean something. And that's what set me on that quest. So to do that. But then also, we had a child, and that my son's almost 17 now, but when he had trouble sleeping at night when he was younger. And another eye-opening experience was we would have conversations while I'm trying to get him to sleep, soothing conversations. And one night he asked me, he said, "Dad, do you see the lights in my room?" And I go, "No, I can't see them." I said, "What do they look like?" And he was telling me, he said, "There's like candles floating down all over my room." And I thought, okay, maybe he's delirious. He's so tired, he's delirious. But I watched his eyes, and I could see it in his eyes that he was really seeing this.
Mhm.
And then the part that sticks with me, and I'll never forget this until my dying day, but he stuck out his hand and he just started uncontrollably laughing. And I said, "What happened?" He said, "One of those candles went through my hand and it tickled so much. I just had to laugh." And I was just blown away. And that made me realize that I think, children don't have that filter that we get
Right.
put on us as we grow up. As because my parents, if I would have said something like that, they'd probably say, "Oh, you're dreaming, you're hallucinating." They would not have accepted that I was seeing that.
Right.
Not that my parents were bad or anything like that. Don't get me
Right.
wrong.
No.
That was the way it was. It was just like, no, I don't see that, so you don't see that.
Right.
Uh, and that opened my eyes to like, I don't know everything. I don't see everything. I don't witness everything. And that put me in a place where I would say, I don't ever judge anybody by their experiences because I've not lived them. So
Right.
whether it's something paranormal, something spiritual, I just love to listen to their stories because they've actually witnessed that. And it's not my place to judge it. It is my place to listen to them and look at them and see how it affected their lives and just be in awe of it. Sometimes I'm jealous when people tell me experiences and I'm like, "Oh, I want to have that experience." And it's just a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I hear a lot of experiences that people have had through the years, and it seems like kids start losing that around mid-teens. They start really losing that ability. So I've tried to, nope, we don't want to filter that out. We still want you to do that. And it's always a little sad. I never lost that. I've always seen things,
Beautiful.
and
Yeah.
and I was really really ostracized and bullied when I was a kid because of it. But
Oh.
I think part of it is tied into creation, the creativity, that
Mm.
kids are so creative and they have no filters and they will just, I see a pink bear riding a unicycle right now, and it comes from such a pure place when it comes from a kid. Is there something we can do or parents can do to help their kids kind of hang on to that a little bit longer?
I think in my opinion, um, just allowing them to express themselves in that and to tell them and not to push it away, just be accepting of it. And again, I go back to what I just said a little bit ago. You don't know what they experience.
Right.
You're not seeing through their eyes. You're not seeing. So what is that lens or that veil that they're looking through that we're not looking through? And just be accepting of it and just be like, "That's wonderful. I wish." And even to the point, because I remember telling my son, I wish I could see that. I wish I
Right.
could see what you see, um, because I want to, and just make them not feel like, that they're wrong, or that they shouldn't be seeing that, because it is something beautiful. And I think if we start to make that shift with the children, and maybe, like you said, maybe they hold on to that a little longer,
Right.
what a wonderful world this might be as they see different things and amazing experiences.
One of previous guests has said he encouraged children to write down those visions, and he would say, "Tell me a story about that," and kind of draw it out of them, every detail. And I think maybe that's one way that kids can really make an impact. If you've got one kid that is seeing something and having these experiences, most likely there are several other kids around them.
Yeah.
That's what I have found in my own experiences. Usually, we kind of flock together without knowing it. We do
Yes.
pull in our tribe, whether we realize it or not.
Yes, we do.
So that's kind of an aspect that I've personally been trying to concentrate more on with kids, teenagers, young people. I don't know why I tend to attract young people to teach. I don't know. I did not set out to do that, but that's what.
I can see right now it's your youthful energy, your exuberance.
Yeah,
I know kids love that. Kids want, they don't want. I remember having teachers in school that were very stern and very strict. I didn't want to be in their class. I
right.
wanted to be in the fun teacher's class. And that's what you just radiate that.
Yeah.
It's coming off of your face. It's just like a beacon of light,
Well,
that
thank you. Thank you.
that people will see that, and they'll attract the people that want that and desire that.
I think we do that continually. I
Yes.
know I had a period of time in my life that was very, very dark, and I found that writing down later when I got out of it,
Uh-huh.
writing those experiences down was very important.
Right. Yes.
One of the things that I liked about your book is your you talk about coloring and mandalas and the importance of just let's just be. And I think we need to teach kids, we need to do a better job of
Right.
teaching children to be open to spiritual things, but we have to keep in mind that everyone is different, and while we may draw similar people to us, we still all have our own
Right.
experiences. You've done a beautiful job in this book
Yeah.
about talking about simple things that people can do, even when they're not working with kids, just simple things, and really making it understandable for a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
people.
I think there's so many spiritual practices and metaphysical practices out there that we don't really think are metaphysical in nature.
Right.
And it's really all connected. But, my thing is, I always tell people, I say, you just have to find what fits you.
Hmm.
Don't go through a book or even my book and say, okay, I got to do this, 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 and this. If
Right.
it doesn't resonate with you, don't do that.
Right.
Find something that does. Don't try to force it. Let it come to you. It will come to you, and you'll find out. Meditation is hard for me. I've got an active mind, an active imagination. And if I just sit in silence, 1,000 things are coming into my head. Oh, I need to take out the trash. I need to do this. So what I found that works for me is I'm a cyclist, so I go bike riding all the time, and I can get out on my bike and I'm just pedaling away, and that rhythmic round and round motion of my feet is my meditation, and it
Right.
starts bringing amazing things into my head. So obviously, I try not to do that going out on the road, someplace safe, but it's so many ideas when I do that, and I'm just like, I'm like, this is my meditation. And people think, well, riding your bike can't be meditation,
Yes.
but it is for me.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. Yeah. It movement meditation.
yeah.
I used to, back when my knees cooperated, I was a runner, and I would just go out on the trail and I would just run. And it was the rhythm of my body moving and my feet hitting the ground. And I was just like, somewhere else.
Yeah.
And you do have to be careful about that. in public. But movement meditation is very, very real.
Yes.
Even friends of mine that ride motorcycles, even
Hmm. Yes.
that road noise, the winding of the,
Right. Yeah.
yeah, it's very
Yeah. It
meditative.
can be almost anything, whatever
Yeah.
just soothes your soul in that sense.
I
So,
think that's people do try to complicate that.
yes.
And that's something that, you can't, you're not all the same. When I was a kid in school, I was constantly one of those kids that was up, looking out the window, going, I, sitting still is not my thing.
Right.
It just, when I hear, I have for some reason, a lot of friends that are teachers, and they will talk about, well, I've got this one kid, and he just can't sit still. And all the other kids were trying to teach them, they were trying to teach them to be in the moment,
Uh-huh.
which is a wonderful thing to be teaching kids, but not every kid's going to be still. So, I told her, I said, I had to go look out the window, maybe put his desk near the window. And she said, like 2 weeks later, she goes, it worked. He's looking at the birds in the trees. He's looking. But that's something that I think parents really need to keep in mind is
Yes.
if you have one of those types of kids, you really need to be open.
Yes.
I have found the solution will present itself if you're open to finding it.
You're very right there. I mean, we try to force it so often and try to, research and find out what the best thing is. And you know, that's just, an average. Well, this works for the average number of people. It doesn't work for everybody. And you're trying to force something, whether it's on a child, yourself even. We're
Yeah.
so hard on ourselves sometimes. Like, well, why do I feel this way? Why do I, and we try to force something. We'll read something and this works for so and so, and you try to force it on yourself and it doesn't work, and you're like, well, what's wrong with me? There's nothing wrong with you. You're just no, you're just people are supposed to be different. We're all like fingerprints. We're all supposed to be different. If we were all the same, it would be such a boring world. It would be terribly boring.
Yes, it would. Absolutely. I know lately, there's been a lot of pent up frustration, a lot of angst, a lot of people being, yeah, all the time. Um, in particular, I have tons of friends in California. I'm from there.
Oh,
The fires and everything is,
yes. Oh my gosh.
um, is there something that you would advise people to do to deal with that? Everything is going wrong. Oh my God, the world's ending kind of feeling that we're having.
The big thing is you always have to focus on something good in your
Mhm.
life. Bypass. So often we get caught up in what's going wrong that we forget even the littlest things that are going right in our life. Maybe it's a friend that calls and just to say hi, or maybe, your kid got an A on a test, or whatever it is. Maybe your plant's growing wonderful, like mine is behind me. And we have to appreciate the little things.
Right.
Yes, we can look at the big things and they're going to be bad. And I'm not trying to make light of those things because they're terrible and people are losing lives and homes and everything. And that's a tragedy. But, have to look, do we still have our health? Are we still alive? Are, material things can be replaced. Yes, it's a pain in the butt. I get it. It's
Yeah.
not fun to deal with, anything like that. But if you're alive, you still have the means to better things.
Mhm.
And maybe, and I hate to say this, something so drastic like the fires, but maybe there's a reason for those. Um, maybe those people had to go through that. I can't see why, but that's not for
Right.
me to know for everybody. But fires are not necessarily bad. I was just reading a thing on wilderness where it's good sometimes for the fires to burn off all the vegetation so that it can grow again and
Right.
renew itself. And in that sense, is that's what happening? Maybe these people need to grow and renew themselves and be more cognizant of what they have. Again, I can't make generalizations about everybody out there because and it's a tragedy, but always look at the good. Look, because there's always something good around you. I mean, if you're displaced and you have to leave your home and you go have to stay with a friend or something, maybe the thing that you needed was to be around that friend, or that just be thankful that there's somebody there to welcome you into their
Right.
home
Right.
in that situation.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. There was a discussion the other day that I was kind of, I don't pay much attention to social media, honestly, but there was one discussion that kind of got my attention the other day. And a group of people, and I know some of them, which is how that post came across in the first place, um, are saying send love, send calm, sing peace, sing all these wonderful things into the fire areas, not only for the people, but for the land, because
Yes,
there's
yes.
so much destruction. And someone else says, oh, well, that doesn't work. You aren't high enough up on the spiritual food chain to have an impact. And I thought, huh, maybe I need to reach out to this person, suggest he watch my YouTube channel, something.
Yeah.
Um, but there is always, 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 not just in this case, there's always some naysayer that says, oh, that's never gonna work. When you're one of the people going through that, and I've been through some terrible tragedies in
Mhm.
California. I was at the Loma Prieta. I was in Candlestick Park watching the baseball game when the earthquake was like,
Yes. I love
that
that.
was exciting.
Yeah, I'm sure it
But,
was.
yeah, but there's always someone who's going to say, you know, that's not going to work. And when you are someone who's trying to recover and you've gone through something terrible and you've lost everything and you are trying to find the positive, those
Yes,
naysayers really do have an impact.
yes.
How do you deal with that? Because that, to me, that was like, oh, how dare you? Yeah.
Right. When somebody comes up with me, because I'm a very positive person, I exude positivity. And I mean, in everything I do, whether it's work, play, just being alive. Um, and I come across a lot of negative people. And for me, whenever they're spouting their negativity or trying to, I don't want to say they're trying to bring you down with them, but I always feel sorry for them, because
Yeah.
I'm like, what has happened to make them think this way first? Um, so I mean, so when somebody like that comes up to me, I work for the military, and there's this old gentleman that comes in, and he's just angry all the time. And I mean, I can sit and talk to him and we can have a great conversation, but he's still just angry all the time. And I always feel so sorry for him when he comes in. And I'm just like, what has made him that way?
Right.
But I don't shy away from him. I go right up to him. I mean, his name is Steve, and I'm like, hey, Steve, how you doing? Whenever he comes in, even though I know he's going to complain about something, or it's something's going to be wrong in his life, whatever have you. And I found now, after I've been known him for 3 or 4 years now, that it's almost like he kind of gravitates toward me when he comes through the
Mhm.
door. And he's like, even though he wants to complain and everything, he still wants to be noticed. He still wants to be, somebody treat him, because I'm sure people don't treat him very nicely at
Right.
all because of that. And I just don't let it get to me. I put up my force field, my wall, whatever, and I just like, you're not going to invade my positivity, and I'm going to go right into your negativity and see what I can do to it.
There's,
But yeah, it's hard, and you have to understand, everybody comes from a different place.
mhm.
Um, and something has shaped them to be that way. And it's not our job to fix them. It's not our job to, you know, accept the way they're acting, but you have to go into it with that mindset of, why are they being so negative?
Right.
Not that you're going to find out the answer, but just understand that something has happened to cause them to be that way, or to want to bring you down in that sense.
I think that's important for people to hear because we have all had different life experiences. When I
Yes.
was doing speaking, mostly at battered women's shelters, I have my own reasons for that. But when I was doing it, I would have people come up to me and say, how can you be positive with what you've gone through? Like, how can I not be? I don't want to stay there. Bad
Right.
things
Yes.
happen. Don't unpack and live there forever.
Exactly. I was just getting ready to say the same thing. Oh my God.
It's just so important for people to hear. We all go through something, all of us, every single person. None of
Yeah.
us get out of life alive, so to speak.
Yeah.
We all go through something. And you have to learn how to move forward, how to take that first step and say, you know what, this was a terrible thing that happened, but I'm not staying here. I'm moving forward.
Yes.
Naysayers or non-naysayers. I think
Yes.
sometimes when someone is that negative all the time, they've never been heard. No
Yeah.
one's ever let them talk about what they've gone through. So
Mm.
that's something. I'm one of those people. I can go to the grocery store and have 3 random people tell me their life story while I'm picking produce. It's just that way for me in my life. But
Yeah.
I think we need to know that maybe they have a story that
Yeah.
needs to get out.
Yes, very wonderfully put. I mean, it is. Everybody has things that have shaped their life and has caused them strife, or, even the most happy people have had things in their life that have changed them, that they wouldn't consider good things necessarily, but it's what shaped them into who they are. So,
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So I have to go back to the book because every time I
okay.
look at it, it makes me chuckle. If you notice the title of this book, and I just, it's such a tongue-in-cheek thing. Get your head out of your metaphysical ass. That is such a, where did that come from?
Well, I think it came from the fact that, like you said, earlier, that are trying to take the woo-woo out of it.
Mhm.
I don't think it's woo-woo. I think there's more metaphysical things in our life that we just don't consider metaphysical.
Yeah.
And I think that I hear people talk and I'm like, that's a metaphysical practice. And they're like, no, it's not. It's, whatever. And that's where that, get your head out of your ass. This is what is you're doing, even my religious friend, because I live in Texas and there's a lot of very religious, very Christian religious people, and they talk about praying. I said, that's technically a metaphysical practice.
Yeah.
You're not, you're praying to something that you can't see, you can't feel. Yes, I know you feel it in your body, but that's a metaphysical practice. And oh no, it's not. It's a religious thing. And I'm like, okay, we'll agree to disagree on that one.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it is, and I get that so often where people are, I've heard people that say they won't meditate, but then they just need to take a quiet moment. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what is that? So I think that's we we so often when people say metaphysics or spiritual, they automatically go to, we have to sit in a robe, we have to shave our heads, we have to dedicate our lives, we have to go live in an ashram somewhere,
Mhm.
and or move to a mountain and get away from everybody. That's not the case. There's so much around us happening all the time, and we're just open up and embrace it. There's wonderful things. Don't call it metaphysics, call it whatever you want, but I know it's a metaphysical practice in my terms. So that's where the title came from, because people are doing it and they just don't know.
And that's true. I know you have a chapter or a couple of pages in here about totem animals, and that has always intrigued me. I've always done animal rescue. My best friends are actually dogs right now.
Yeah.
But I hear people talk about, you know, I know I'm going to have a good day when the white squirrel shows up. When I see that squirrel in the morning, it's going to be a great day. And I'm
Yeah.
like, uh-huh, all righty then, because that is a totem animal. That is, this squirrel has an energetic attachment to you, and you are acknowledging that. And they went, no, I'm not. What
I
did you
know.
just tell me 5 seconds ago? But those things, I used to sell real estate.
Uh-huh.
When I first moved where I live now, there was an injured raven. I made a little splint on his broken foot, and
Aw, that's
he was letting me treat him, and I was like, well, obviously you're in pain because you're letting a human
yeah.
help
Right.
you. And he stayed around in my horse pasture, actually in the horse feeder, which was interesting, for a couple of days, and he finally pulled the splint off himself. and flew away. Well, he's probably more like a week. And every year, I know that's been 12, 14 years now. That's not the same raven, but I still
Yeah.
have flocks of ravens bringing me things. And when I would sell real estate, I would drive up, and I never noticed it until one of my friend realtors said, "Oh, we knew you were going to be here. Look at your birds." And the flock of ravens was in the tree. And they knew where I was going to be. They would follow
That's
me all
so
over the valley.
wonderful.
And that's a totem animal. That is a connection. That is that the descendants of that bird that I helped
Hmm.
saying, you're our friend, you're our friend,
Yeah.
you helped great grandpa, whoever. And those things happen all around us all the time.
Yes. Oh,
And
yeah.
people just don't recognize it for what it is. There's a lady I know who feeds a feral cat, fed the same cat for 5 years. She
Uh-huh.
says, when he's not here, my day just doesn't go as well. There you go.
That's very interesting. Oh my gosh. Yeah. I mean, there's so much connection out there. One of my big things is my grandfather was a very influential person in my life. He's the one that taught me how to have fun. He had fun with everything. He was just the life of the party, always laughing, always having fun. Um, and after he passed, I will get hints from him. He used to eat these little root beer candies all the time.
Mhm.
And every once in a while, I'll be doing something, or maybe, I'm getting down a little bit or something, and I will smell root beer
Yeah.
out of the blue. And I'm like, it makes me tear up almost, because it's him patting me on the back saying, it's going to be all right.
Yep. I went through a very, very devastating divorce several years ago. It was everything in my world turned inside out and upside down. And so many people experienced that. It blindsided me. I didn't see it coming. So it was just really a horrific thing. And in the middle of one of my darkest times, I was sitting on my couch, and I was like under a blanket with three dogs on top of me and the cat behind, and
Uh-huh.
I smelt my grandmother's perfume.
Oh, yes. Perfume is a
And,
big one too. Yes.
and I went, it's going to be okay. It's going to be okay. I am not alone. I am being seen. I am okay. And it just makes such a difference.
Yeah.
People need to be more open to that. A friend of mine lost her husband, and there was it was a cat ball. One of those little, it makes music and, lights up. And we use it in paranormal investigations
Right.
now,
Yes.
but
Yes.
it was a cat ball. And
Uh-huh.
she said that cat ball would just start lighting up and playing the music. There was not a cat around it. The ball was on a counter. She's looking at it. And she said she knew that was him
Yeah.
saying, I'm here. I'm here, because
Yes.
he always hated that ball. Just, you know, like, of course he would pick that. But
Right. Yes.
they do talk to us all the time. And
They
I
do.
think sometimes people get so caught up in what they're feeling and what they're missing and what they don't have in front of them that they're not open enough. We have
Yes.
tons of support. You are never alone.
Yes. Oh my gosh. And just reliving the memories of that person,
Yeah.
a way to keep them alive and to tell the stories. I mean, the people I work with and stuff, they're probably like, oh God, we're sick of hearing about your grandfather and your families and stuff like that. But I tell them the stories that just, you know, and it's my way of keeping him alive, and keeping going forward. So he's not forgotten, because, again, as long as I'm remembering him, he's still alive.
Yeah.
That sense.
Absolutely. And I do think it gives other people hope.
Mhm.
They may say, oh, I'm tired of hearing that story. But deep in their mind, you planted a seed
Yes.
that they're not alone. And I think that's really important too, because we are all connected. Um,
Yes.
I had a near-death experience last summer. And
Oh.
one of the big things I was shown, we're all connected,
Mhm.
we are all connected.
Yeah.
And that's something that one of the first things when I was talking again, I told my daughter we're all connected, and she went, "Okay, mom." Like, here it comes again. Um, but but we are, and it's just so important to realize love never dies.
Yeah. No, it doesn't.
It's always with you. You can always feel it when you're open to feeling it.
Yes. Yeah. That
That's
unconditional love never dies. It's still there. Because my son, my oldest son, engineer, very straightforward, very analytical of everything. And when I start talking this way, he's always like, yeah, Dad, whatever. But I'm so super proud of him, and he has to follow his path. I mean,
Right.
he's one of my favorite stories of him, and he'll probably kill me if he hears this and tell him. But he was in high school. I mean, straight A student, never, he was in literature, and he had to uh, decipher a poem, tell what the poem meant to him. And we spent hours up at night because he had to have the right answer. And I
Right.
said, there's not a right answer. I
Right.
said, tell what it makes you feel like. That's not acceptable, he would say. I've got to have the right answer. I got to get an A on this. I want to keep my grade point average up and all this. I said, well, it was the funniest thing because me being very spiritual and metaphysical and saying, just tell what you feel. And he's like,
Right.
there's got to be a right or a wrong
Uh-huh.
answer.
Yeah, I think we have the same child. Yeah. My daughter is very that way, and she's just, nope, it's right or wrong, it's black, it's white, it's what,
Yes.
and here I am over here going, no, it's purple with fuchsia, yeah. And it just, I do think that sometimes we are given those children that are most opposite of us
Yeah, I think so too.
just for fun,
Well,
But
I think it's a learning experience for both of us. I mean, they're there for some reason to teach us as much as we are to
right,
teach them.
right.
So, with my son, I know that he taught me that people think that way, that he's very intelligent, very high IQ. Um, but with that comes that very straight and narrow path. And it makes me understand people a little bit better. So that's what I always say. He
Yeah.
helps me understand the people that I don't understand when I'm just like, I don't understand how you can't, veer off the path and
How
smell
can
the
you not?
flowers and
Yeah.
stuff. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I know that you mentioned flowers. We were walking. I used to take my daughter out in nature all the time when she was little, um, and she would just steamroll by. Like, I have to get down this path as quickly as possible. I'm going to beat my old time. And I'm like, how can you not see this flower? And she's like, Mom, it's a weed. And I'm like, no, it's a flower.
Well,
So,
here's a funny story of my son, and it was another eye-opening experience for me because we used to go, my oldest son, we used to go bike riding all the time together, and we loved it. And we went this one place, and some reason I was going to show him how to ride a bike downstairs. Not the safest thing in the world.
no.
Well, obviously I didn't make it. So I toppled over my bike, I fell, and I'm on the ground down at the bottom of the stairs, just laughing. And I remember him sitting over me. He go, "Stop laughing, Dad." He said, "You could have got hurt." And I'm like, I'm just dying because I'm like, oh my God, I can just imagine myself falling down the stairs and how funny it would have been. And he is getting so mad at me because I'm laughing, because I'm witnessing myself falling down the stairs and laughing. And that's not something he would have done. He's like,
Right.
okay, it was, he was like 8 years old, and he's the one that with more reason than I was at that point.
Yeah. Yeah. So but one of the things that I learned from my daughter too is I was middle of the day. I don't even remember what we were doing. We were out running errands, and she looked at me and she said, Mom, do you remember when I was the mom and you were the little girl?
Oh, wow.
And I went, okay, tell me more. What is this about?
Yeah.
Where did we
Wow.
live? What were we doing? But it was so out of the blue for her with her
Uh-huh.
personality that I was like, huh, there's something to this.
Yes,
Uh,
very interesting.
but it's one of those things. One of the things I learned when I died, I say I died like it was, I went to lunch yesterday, but
Yeah.
it was that we all don't. I've heard it for years. We all come back, we reincarnate over and over again with the same people.
Mm.
In the mid-50s to the 60s and on, people started coming together with other families that were not their own. And I
Mm.
always think that's very interesting because I've had clients that have said, I don't think I belong with these people. And I received verification of that.
Yeah.
That's not always true, but we attract people into our lives that we need to learn from. like
Yeah.
you said, we do learn from each other.
Yes.
It's a never-ending thing. You
Right.
know,
Yes. It never is.
if
That's the beauty of it.
you're
It's
right.
learning is constant. It's, you're never going to know everything. So, enjoy the journey.
How long did it take for this book to come together?
Oh, it's been a project for a while. I've been collecting data and just, making notes probably for 6 or 7 years. And I've recently moved. And so I started looking through all my journals and things, and I found the notebook with this. And I was like, I need to start putting this together. And it took me 6 months or so to put it all together. I mean, I had basically the whole book written out, just pages after pages, just
Right.
thoughts and ideas and everything. Um, and then, so then I just, put it together. One of my big problems is that I'm terrible at grammar, terrible at spelling. So I put it all together. And nowadays, and I won't be afraid to admit it, I used AI to edit it because I was like, I'd type out everything and I'd put it in AI and I'd say, check the spelling. And it checked the spelling and the grammar. And so I mean, because I stink at that. I will be the first to tell you. I absolutely stink. If my high school teachers would say that I wrote a book, they would just be like, if you tell them, they'd probably be like, nah, there's no way he could have wrote a book or anything. But I used the tools that were available to me. I
Right.
got my ideas out there, got my thought processes together. And it was a beautiful thing. It was interesting because at first I was a little reluctant. I was like, I don't want, I don't want to use this. Am I cheating the system? But the ideas are mine. It's
Right.
just it helps me with the grammar and the spelling because that if not, everybody be like, what's he trying to sell? Because I'll write something on a document or something, and even spell check will be like, what the heck are you trying to write? It's just like we can't even decipher what that word's supposed to be.
Yeah, one of the programs I used to use all the time was a Grammarly. And
Yeah,
I always felt like I was cheating using Grammarly. But you do what you have to do to make it understandable for
yeah,
people. Um, it's just so well done. I knew it had to take a while
yes, it
because
took a while.
there are things that I've honestly never seen put in other books in your book. So that's kind of refreshing to me. We are just about out of time, and I want to give you a chance to anything else that you want to say about your book or how to find you or any of that, because I know the book is available on Amazon.
Yes, it is available on Amazon. I don't have a specific web page. Like I said, this is just a labor of love for me. So if you look up Rob Alex PhD on Amazon, you'll find some of my other books. My relationship books are out there too, if you're, into the relationship field. But this has become a labor of love, and I've started to do some more books. I've done some smaller books. I'm fine. Again, like I said, I journal everything. I write down every idea I ever have. I journal it.
Yeah, I do
And
too.
it's fun to go back and look at those journals and then go, oh, now is the time for this book. Because that's what I
Right.
did with this one. I just like, I had it all laid out. I was just like, okay, what's holding me back? And so now was the time. So when I went back, moved, I found the journal. I was like, oh, wow, there's a lot of good stuff in here. Let's get this into a book.
Yeah.
So it was just a labor of love. One of my favorite people to read is Osho. I
Mhm.
know that a lot of people have issues with him and the
Right.
money that he made and stuff like that, but his teachings are wonderful. I mean,
Right.
a lot of the things that he brings to light are wonderful. And yes, I'm always fearful because I always think, oh my gosh, if I got that popular, would I, buy 700 Rolls Royces
Right.
or whatever, but and I don't know, maybe I would, but I was just like, his writing and his thought process fascinated me and the things he said. So I look beyond some of the negative things that people say about him and things like that, because ultimately it's his words that got him there.
Right.
And maybe he just didn't know how to handle it as well from that
And
aspect.
people forget he was human. He was a
Yes,
human being, and none of us are perfect. So
right.
I
That is
agree with
so
you.
true.
I have had things. I actually quoted him one time in a YouTube video I did, and people were just like, hey, I'm like,
Yeah.
okay, get past the human being part.
Yes.
But
So
yeah, Well, thank you so much for coming on and for
Kellie,
being
it's
with
been a
us.
pleasure. I loved it. I mean, you have a light that is shining bright,
Well,
and keep
thank
that
you.
shining.
Thank you very much for that. I don't feel well today, so thank you very much. That's exceptionally appreciated.
Well, I hate to see what you like when you feel great. So
It's been several days of trying to get over a cold, so I appreciate that.
I hope you the best and you get over it all fully. So
Yeah, oh, I will. I'm almost there. But thank you again. Everybody should pick up Rob's book, Get Your Head Out of Your Metaphysical Ass, which makes me chuckle every time I. So thank you very much. That will do it for this episode. Thank you guys for watching. Please like the video on YouTube, share, comment, subscribe to my channel, do all that stuff. This will also be up on Spreaker, which you can also follow me on. A little bit different content there. So just so you know, thank you guys so much for watching. I will see you next time. Bye.